Hey guys, Chris, Ironhead Garage. Well, I've been working on this rear axle. I got the driver's side brakes all took apart. I let them those nuts soak for the axle plate overnight. For the wheel cylinder, yeah, those are pretty old in there. They broke off. So maybe I get the other side, so I'll at least need 2 new bolts for the new wheel cylinder. Put that with the junk pile. So there's one of them axles. Still got the other axle on the other side. But you loosen up those 4 bolts and get those nuts off. And then you can get this axle out here with a slide hammer. I just use an old cheap slide hammer I've had for years. And give her a couple whacks and she'll pop out of there. So there's that bearing. I matched it up. It matches the new bearings I have. And then there's a collar on there. They must make a special tool. I tried putting my slide hammer underneath this bearing and popping it, but you got to get them both off. You got to get the collar off and the bearing. Look at these bearings. Say made in USA. Yeah, they're probably good, but we'll put them newer ones I got in there just to be sure. So I've seen a lot of videos of guys, they'll take a cutting wheel and they'll cut this first collar about halfway through without hitting the axle, and then take a cold chisel and give it a couple pops, and it will crack it. Then you can slide that one up, and then you can cut the outer race of that big roller bearing and get it to pop, and then the bearings will fall out, and then you can cut that that inner race of the big bearing there, the big wheel bearing, and get it to pop with the cold chisel and get them to slide off. So that's what I'm gonna try to do without messing up that that backing plate here. I gotta clean all this stuff up. 60 years of crud on it probably. You know, you can see those big U-bolts I never painted. Not sure why I even put them on there, but we'll get them off. I think I'll get that third member out while it's in the car, then I'll just jerk the whole rear end out and flush it all out real good. Didn't look too bad inside. You can see in there or not. Yeah, it's pretty dark in there. There it is. So I'm going to swing the light around the other way and get them brakes off, and I'll show you how to get that axle out. Oh, and I did bash the studs out of here. I just took this over here. You really don't want to bash the studs out with the axle in there, bash it on the third member. So I just set it on here, give it some kind of a backer. Then I just smacked those studs down. I soaked them real good with that PB Blaster. I gave them a couple smacks and they popped all on out, one at a time. And I did have a couple extra axles. One was longer than the other. This guy here must be for a truck. It's about 1 inch longer. But I do have this extra axle here. And it's the same bearing flange on it. So if I ever break an axle or need an axle, I got an extra one. It's the same length. So that's nice to have. That was in the car when I got the old 55. Put that back, and that longer one, you can see, yeah, it's about 1.5 inches longer. It's got a real thin backing plate on it, so I'm not sure what that's for. But we got an extra one, just in case we ever break one. So I'll get the light over here on this side, and we'll get them brakes apart and get that axle out. Alright guys, well, I did get the nuts off the axle backing plate, the retainer plate, whatever they call it. And then I was able to get the bolts right out of the back of the wheel cylinder. These ones came right out, so I'll have to get 2 more of these for the other side, but these are easy to get. I think they're like 5/16, ½ inch. So I don't have one of them fancy spring pullers, you know, a screwdriver that's bent with a hook like an ice pick. So I just clamp on the little flap here so you can see, get a pair of channel locks, hook it on that spring. Just get a screwdriver. These are all old anyway. Pop that spring off. Then it's got these little clips down here that go through the backing plate for the brake shoes, holds the brake shoes on. So you just press that little spring there with a flat blade, turn that one little slot. A lot of you guys know that, and that little pin comes out. Put that in the shit pile, and that little clip there comes off. Do the same on this side. You can see that whole backing plate's already loose. Turn that little guy, he falls out. Pretty simple. Oh, just about a kid could do it. Then kit didn't come with this piece here, so I'll clean that up, and I got to put that back on. Put that over there. Then you just spread these brake shoes apart, and everything just comes off in one bundle. Got to save this the spreader bar here with the spring. Kit didn't come with that, I don't think. Put that in the pile with a other spring. So the wheel cylinder should pop off. Well, that comes right out. Boy, that thing's old. Put that in the pile. You can see that backing plate's loose. So I got my old trusty slide hammer. I'll put it on that axle. Give her a couple whacks. Put her on the other side. She's coming. There it goes. Easy as that. Put that baby back up there. Yeah, got a little bit of crud in there. Yeah, it's a little gritty. Lucky I'm replacing this bearing. And actually the nuts that went on here, this has been off before because the lock washers are gone. The other side had lock washers. Get the axle out. There's some kind of gray, kind of a sealer in here. There's a gasket on this side. It didn't look like there was a gasket on the other side. That must be that gray sealer. Somebody changed these bearings or did an axle or something at one time in its life. And there's the end of her. Yeah, the teeth are nice and good still. So that's good. Well, we'll get this axle over to the bench, wipe her down a little bit, and get those wheel studs out of there. Take this backing plate off, so I have to clean all this up. I'll keep this spring pin here that holds the spring and the brake shoes. And the back's pretty nice. I painted it before. And I got the emergency brake and all that stuff. Axle tube feels all good. Nice and smooth, no ridges. Don't seem like the bearing was spinning on it or anything. See, it's got a little seal on that bearing in there, an O-ring. So that seemed all good. Yeah, this bearing feels a little crunchy. I think there's some grit in there. Lucky I'm changing them. So I'll get this wiped down and get it over to the bench. Show you how I bang them studs out. Alright. So, got you guys set up on a little tripod there. Getting all fancy. So I just set it here on the edge of the vise. It's already got one missing stud there. Just try to keep it nice and flat. Just give her a pretty good thump with your BFG. Not your biggest one, but pretty good size. And it popped right out. Look at that. Easy as pie. Obviously these studs are no good. They're super old. Yeah, they pop out pretty easy for being in there so long. Piece of cake. So we'll get that cleaned up a little bit more and get the cutting wheel. Start cutting cutting that collar a little bit. Smack it with a cold chisel and get it to fracture. It'll crack and then it'll slip off there. Then I'll be able to work on this other bearing, the outer race of it. Cut that with the cutting wheel without cutting the bearing retainer cut plate, whatever they call it, and then work on that inner race. Alright guys. Hey guys, well I got the bearing off of one axle, so there's the collar. As you can see, I only had to cut it a little bit with the cutting wheel. There it is, focused in with the cutting wheel, and then hit it with a cold chisel, and it fractured it, and it comes slipping right off. There's the axle. And then on the outer part of the main bearing, I only cut it about a 1/4 inch, popped it with the cold chisel, and then went around the other side and cut it, man, not even a 1/4 inch, maybe in 3/16, maybe almost a 1/4, and then popped it with a chisel, and then it opened up like a clam, and I was able to lift it off. So that part's junk. Then I was able to pull the bearing cage out of there, and which released the bearing cup. And then this is the main bearing roller. You see how far I cut it. Some guys say, oh, you got to cut it halfway or so, but man, I only cut about 1/8 of an inch deep with my cutting wheel, and smacked it with that cold chisel, and it cracked it because it's real hard steel, but fragile at the same point. Tempered steel, I guess. And then it fractured it, and I was able to slip it off of that axle. So the best way is, I tried to use a bigger cutting wheel like this. No, get one of your real thin ones, the 1/16 inch ones, and a nice worn out one where you get real close like that guy is. And then slice them, and don't cut the bearing retainer plate. So I'll put it up. I'll put the camera up on the tripod, and I'll show you how quick I can do this. All right, guys. All right, guys. Got this one set up. Got the camera set up. Got the safety glasses on. Don't forget those. We'll start cutting on this one. See if we can get her to pop just like the other one. Down like so. I don't know if you guys can see very good or not, but got a little notch in it. Got a little notch in it there. And we'll see if it pops. See it cracking. So there it went. It popped. Give her one more whack. About ready to come off. There it went. Take the chisel. There she goes. Give her a little bit of help. You don't want to scar the axle up. So there's that one. That comes off pretty easy. So we'll cut the outer bearing, the bigger part. I got one notch in it already. I'll cut it a little bit more. You don't want to cut the backing plate. Probably can't see very good. Don't want to cut the backing plate, but it might happen, but that little nick won't hurt it. I haven't hit it yet. I'm going to cut this one on. Hard to see with all the sparks flying. Stand this baby up. You can see got a couple little notches there. One there. I got one on this back side there. We'll smack them with the cold chisel. Watch your pop. Axle's kind of wobbly. I went that side. And I went that side. Broke right in half. So to get that out, that cage out of there. There were the bearings. Those are good for your kid's slingshot. There's the bearing cage. And another bearing. There's the outer cup. Two pieces. Popped right in half. Another bearing. Now you can slide this bearing retainer cup off of there. Be keeping that, need to clean it up. So now, this is what you got left. So now you got to get that off of there. And we'll slice that and give it a pop. Squeeze it between my railroad tie. And we'll cut that. not very deep. So we'll give that a pop. Turn around this way. All I'm using is this little chisel right here. You don't want to hit the axle with the chisel or with the cutting wheel. That won't be good. There it went. There it is. Clean axles now. Now I can get my new bearings pressed on there. The axle's nice and smooth still. Never hit it with the cutting wheel. So you don't have to cut all the way through. As far as I cut through. Right there. And then hit it with that cold chisel and it fractures that. And it'll spread apart and then you can just tap it right off there. Then you can use these, or this one here, I'll use to press my bearing on probably. Unless I can find a piece of pipe that fits over it. But I can use this to press the bearing off and it'll tap right back off. So that's the way you do those. So we'll stop this video here. It's getting pretty long again. Figure I'd show you guys that. Thanks for watching. You guys take care. We'll see you next time. Ironhead Garage.